The game may begin. Good luck and good curling.
Hey everyone, thank you so much, Stacy, for that expert analysis from Mike Wood and Stacy and Kevin in the Czech studios. As she said, I'm John Cullen, Melissa Saligo with me, four-time BC Scotties champion, and you can see some of Melissa's beautiful Scotties championship blacks in the background there. I have to say, Melissa, your framing is impeccable.
Thank you. I worked really hard on it, and obviously you helped me with that, right, John?
Yes, oh yeah, I love to be reminded of the provincial championships I never won, so I do greatly appreciate that, but certainly excited for this matchup here. As we heard in the studio, a fantastic semifinal matchup here. We have the Jim Cotter rink from the Vernon, Kelowna, and Kamloops Curling Clubs up against Jeff Richard from the Royal City Curling Club. And it looks like we're going to have a conservative start potentially here, Melissa, as Nick Meister will be hitting this Rick Sawatsky stone in the house. And Melissa, these are two teams we've seen a lot of throughout the week. And what sort of game are you expecting here? I know Mike talked a little bit about that, but what are you expecting out of these two teams here tonight?
I think we're expecting a lot of rocks in play, to be honest, John. You know, both teams are extremely comfortable with that kind of game. That first shot, unfortunately, slipped into the rings for Jim Cotter's team, so they were looking for it to be short. But it just slipped in, so it's going to change the complexity probably of this first end. But you can guarantee that if this end continues the way it does, we're going to see a lot of rocks in play, I'm guessing, for the second end. And wow.
Uncharacteristic miss there from Rick Sawatsky, and so an early opportunity here for Team Richard. Team Richard is, of course, starting with the hammer by virtue of the fact that they did beat Jim Cotter in their B final earlier in the week, and so that place in the triple knockout does get Richard the hammer. And we'll meet the teams here as lead Nick Meister is getting ready to throw. The Jeff Richard team from the Royal City Curling Club, Nick Meister at lead, Jared Kolamea at second, Jeff Richard at third, and Brent Pierce skipping. And over on the other side, as we said, it's a real interior affair, an Okanagan affair, if you will, on the Jim Cotter side of the sheet. Lead, Rick Sawatsky, second, Andrew Nerpin, third, Grant Olson, and of course the skip, as Kevin said off the top, 9-time BC champion Jim Cotter. So certainly a game with a lot of experience on both sides of the sheet. One of the themes we've had this week, Melissa, is a more experienced rink versus a less experienced one. And this is kind of a battle here among two skips that have a boatload of experience between them.
That's a good way to put it, John, for sure. A boatload of experience, and not only that, but they've played against each other so many times, so they know each other very, very well. Both Jeff has played as a skip, has played against Jim, and now Brent as well. And so it's going to be very interesting to see what they can do against each other to kind of manufacture what they need to do, and it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to this game.
So that rock will hang on in the 12-foot, and I think we'll likely see Brent Pierce go after it here. As we said, this is the men's semifinal. The winner of this game will move on to play the Islanders, Paul Cheka, tomorrow afternoon, rather. in the BC men's final, and the winner, of course, will move on to the Tim Hortons Brier, taking place in March in Lethbridge, Alberta. That is what is on the line for these teams.
That's fine. No, I know.
And so with the rollout there, this is going to allow Andrew Nerpin to get rid of this red stone. And I think, Melissa, you may have an idea of where we're heading here.
I always have my ticket in my back pocket, John.
Very important. You got to get your ticket. It's a one-way trip to Blanksville that it looks like we're on right here, as Andrew Nerpin rolls that one to the top of the rings. We'll get a look at Jared Kolomea here. We've talked about him a few times this week. He has not lived in BC for too long. He's originally from Winnipeg, Manitoba, and in his curling travels met Sam Fisher, the lead for Corinne Brown, and they got married this past year, so they are now well, they're now husband and wife, and Jared has called Kamloops home for the last 5 years. It's almost like I forgot the term for what it is after you get married there. They're husband and wife. This is our 11th game of the week. I think starting to see things.
So it's interesting, John, you know, you think back what we talked about, we pretty much were sure that they were going to go for it pretty much off the get-go. But simple, it comes down to one simple shot, and that was the very, very first rock by Rick Sawatsky. By virtue of it slipping into the rings, it just changed the complexity of this end. Neither team has an opportunity to really try anything, so now it's just, as you say, we're heading towards Blanksville. I said it, Blanksville.
You said it. Doesn't it feel so nice to say?
It does. I agree.
Yeah. I think it was one of the places they built a monorail in that episode of The Simpsons, was Blanksville, I think. So yeah, it is wide open here, and I was talking with Brent Pierce this afternoon, Melissa, and he pointed something out to me, which is, you know, speaks to his longevity in the game. We're talking about experience, and he said if they were lucky enough to win this game and get to the final tomorrow, it will be 32 years between his first BC Finals appearance and this one. He first made the BC Finals when he was 19 years old.
Oh.
He lost. Yeah, I know. Crazy to think. He lost that final, but he is he's been in a lot of BC Finals. He's won 3 of them, and yeah, 32 years apart. He lost that one to Rick Folk and Bert Gretzinger. Not ashamed to lose to those guys, that's for sure.
Nice control.
Whoa. Clean, clean.
Little firm.
Yeah.
Little firm. Curling now.
Clean.
Clean. Results, Jeff. It's all about results.
Let's go down there. Go, Ray. Let's go down there.
I love that comment by Jared. Sorry. Just
Yeah,
I
no,
just
go
want
ahead.
to point that out. I'm pretty sure what I think it meant is Jeff maybe felt he didn't throw it well or didn't throw it pretty, but as you heard Jared say, it's all about results, and that's exactly what he got a perfect result there.
Yeah, we always say there's no pictures on the scoreboard.
That's right.
So it doesn't particularly matter how the points get up there, or in this case, don't get up there. It's just that they do or don't, depending on what your goal is. But yeah, absolutely. We saw Jeff Richard actually today struggle a little bit in the game against the Islanders. He really turned it on in the second half of the game, but he had some uncharacteristic misses, and we'll see if he can clean that up here tonight. Of course, that was a very close game in the 1-2 game earlier today. Paul Cheka emerging victorious with a fantastic shot on his last in the 10th end to secure the 1-point victory and the berth in the final tomorrow. Paul, of course, has been in 2 previous BC finals. I won't mention who one of his teammates was in both of those finals, but he may or may not be a part of this broadcast team.
He may or may not have the first name John.
It's tough to say.
It is tough
But
to say.
both of those finals were against Jim Cotter. So if Cotter were to win this one, it would be a familiar matchup for both Paul Cheka and Jay Wakefield. And so final stone here for Brent Pierce, just looking to make this Cotter rock go away.
Hard, Nick. Back it up. Back it up. Back it up.
Nick Meister on this right away. If you're Brent Pierce, you do not want to stick this one in the house.
Okay.
And he will, unfortunately. So sort of a little backdoor force from Jim Cotter there, and Brent Pierce will take one with the hammer in the first. Jim Cotter will have the hammer when we come back. You're watching the BC Men's Provincial Semifinal live on Check.
I like it.
Hello, curling fans, and welcome back to continuing coverage of the BC Men's Provincial Curling Championships. You're watching the men's semifinal between Jeff Richard and Jim Cotter, John Cullen alongside Melissa Saligo. And Melissa, we saw what can easily be termed as a unforced error from Brent Pierce there. Had a opportunity for the blank and ends up taking one in the first.
Definitely not what Brent wants, that is for sure. He had, you know, by finishing second overall this past week, he had that chance either to have the, you know, to have that all-important hammer here in the semifinal, and you really don't want to waste that chance. And unfortunately for Brent, with that nose hit, he gets his point for sure, but he does give up that all-important hammer in the second end.
Yeah, and we saw there it was an out turn that Brent threw on that blank. And Melissa, we watched the game this morning, and it did seem like his out turn was giving him a little bit of trouble. Is that fair to say?
I would agree. He seems to be just sliding ever so tight and trying to get the rock back to the broom a little. And, you know, I know he struggled a little bit during that game, and perhaps on that one as well. So we'll keep an eye on that as the game progresses here.
Real close to being in, not coming down.
So we're going to have a few more rocks in play here as Nick Meister throws his first one in the house, and Jim Cotter ignores it and throws up the corner guard. And we'll take a look at the path that the teams took to get here. Curiously enough, the only losses on the board for either team are to Cheka or to each other. Jim Cotter lost his opener to the Islanders, Team Cheka 9-8, before rattling off 4 straight wins, beating Josh Kennelly 11-2, and then followed that up with wins over Neil Dangerfield, Sebastian Robillard, and Tyler Tardy. Then he lost that B final to Jeff Richards 7-6. And then he was victorious in the C qualifier against Sebastian Robillard 7-3, and then beat Tyler Tardy again last night in the this morning rather, in the 3-4 game 9-3. So he took the long way home in this 12-team triple knockout, did Jim Cotter. And you'll notice that Jeff Richard has played a couple less games. They were opening on 3 straight wins, beating Josh Kennelly, Rob Nobert, and Sebastian Robillard before losing that A final to Paul Cheka. And then they and then they won, of course, that B final game against Jim Cotter 7-6 before losing this morning again to Cheka. And so that is how they find themselves here in the semifinal. And Melissa, you talked about it a little bit earlier today. It can sometimes be tough for the team in this game that's coming off the loss.
Yeah, that's very, very true. And we talked about that, as you say earlier, where Sarah Wark has been on a winning streak, coming through the sea, definitely played more games, been on the ice, had a chance to see the ice more times, but most importantly, coming off that win after win after win to get into that game this morning or this afternoon. And for Brent Pierce, with that loss in the 1-2 game, they're coming off a loss. And it didn't seem to matter for Marianne. She won her game earlier today, the Marianne Arsenault. So it's going to be interesting to see how Team Richard responds with coming off that loss. So they just need to let that one go, obviously, and just come out here firing on all cylinders.
So it is Brent Pierce sitting one without the hammer, but Jim Cotter does have a couple corner guards up. And it looks like they're electing to have Jared Colomea throw a guard here.
Line's good. Never needs to curl. Never needs to curl. Line's good.
Keep it coming. Keep it coming, guys. Keep it coming. As far as it'll go. As far as it'll go. As far as it'll go. Okay.
So a little higher than they would have wanted, especially with how deep that redstone is in the house, Melissa. Do we think that, I don't know, are you a little surprised that they guarded it, given that it's in the back 8 there?
I am a little. I thought maybe if nothing else, I mean, they didn't want it in because they didn't want to give Team Cotter the option for the hit and roll. So I think even a little tighter would have been probably better than where it is. But it looks like Jim Cotter is going to ignore it altogether and try and bury one behind those 2 corner guards. If you can ever get this fully buried, even if it's back house, he might be setting himself up for a deuce, but they have not laid a broom to this one at all, John.
Jim warming up the shoulders there for a second, but it will slide a little far for Andrew Nerpin, and it will still be Jeff Richard line one.
Follow us. I don't hate around red.
You go this way.
So Jeff Richard looking to come around the center here. Lie 2 buried.
So we talked about the ice earlier today as well, John, and you could see, we've alluded to it a number of times, the rock is going to run straight for a long period of time, and then about the hog line it takes its break. So it's really important as a thrower to ensure that you have a nice, it's almost the perfect weight at about the hog line, and let your sweepers manage that stone from hog line in. If you're even that ever so slightly heavy, it runs really, really straight. And that's a great shot by Jeff Richard.
Really good, and illustrating what you were talking about there, Melissa, as well, that it really did take a long time to move. At the hog line, it was well outside of that center guard and then finished beautifully. So that's a good example of what you were talking about, and I'm sure we'll see an example later. I mean, I hope we don't, but I'm sure we'll see an example later of a rock that curls too early, and it's just impossible for the sweepers to save it.
That's right.
So big shot here for third Grant Olson. Rick Sawatsky trying to make this curl. They'd love to roll behind that corner guard. They won't quite get over there, but nice shot from Grant to get rid of that top red.
And again, that just speaks to the greatness of this curling ice. That rock was pretty much fully buried, but with a nice soft hack weight, you can access a stone that is almost fully buried and roll open, and obviously keeping your shooter in play because you're throwing that nice hack. So great
Nice
shot there
control.
by Grant.
Yep. Whoa. Yep, yep. Hard. Hard. Hard, Nick. Hard, 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 hard.
Hard, Nick.
Hard, hard,
Hard, Nick.
hard, 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 hard.
I wonder if Brent wanted Nick to sweep that.
Oh, they really wanted to stay for second shot here. It'll be interesting to see who is second shot. And Jim's
Jim
going to let
thinks
us know
it's
that
them.
it is him. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a big mistake there. It's close, but Jeff really wanted to stay as for second.
Or just come around.
Yeah, we could tell from the
We're
patented
second.
scream from Brent Pierce there.
Okay, you like the in? Or the same out?
Well, it's basically the same shot if you play the out.
Well, let's wait till back on you. I'm just thinking we might get a little more curl here. I know we just threw it. Back here? Not quite hack?
So Grant Olson just trying to remove this red shot stone to lie 2.
Yep! Hardner!
Andrew Nerpin picking it up right away. Got to get by that center guard. Got to get by that center guard, and they will not. Might come onto this other red one, though. And it does, so not a bad plan B for Team Cotter. They're now lying second and third shot. But they certainly would have loved to make that hit, Melissa.
He's nice. Jeff seemed to carry.
Yeah, you know, and that was Grant's point. He had just thrown the out turn, and that was kind of his preference, but it was obviously up to Jim to make the call. And they knew, and Jim actually said it during the conversation, that he thought it would get a little bit more curl. Well, it definitely did. And the brushers worked really hard to try and get it past that guard, but unfortunately it does just tick it. A little break in the back end of the house there, though, as the blue hit the red one back. So great opportunity here now for Brent Pierce to try and get this one wrapped around that center guard, top 4.
So big shot here for Brent Pierce. Needs to get this in the right spot.
T-line right now. A little heavy.
They'd love for this to be higher up in the house. And this is really sailing.
This is the example we were, this is an example of what we were talking about, John, that if you are heavy through the break point, it's just going to continue to carry and doesn't get a chance to take the break and slow down.
Right.
So Melissa, I'm assuming that Jim would prefer this one to be above the tee line and not down to those red ones at the back.
I would think so. I would think if he freezes to the ones in the back, obviously Brent just does the exact same thing, and then you're forced to 1. If you ever get this in a great spot, top 4, it has to be obviously shot stone. Then Brent's likely going to take a pass at it and see if he can get in. And if Jim ever got a mistake, then he could potentially get to this end. So really important. This is really mostly important, the line first. And then if you can ever get it above the tee line, then you're in really good shape.
So first stone here for Jim Cotter in the second.
Just for wait, we got room. We got room. Line should be okay.
Need this to curl a little bit and stop a little bit. And it gets that nice little finish there. And so it is Jim Cotter lying 1 with hammer here in the second.
Nicely done by Jim.
nose hit for 4.
If we move it at all, we can.
You take the guard, it's a nose hit
If
for
we move
4.
it at all, it's not very good. Yeah, what's that going to do?
Yeah.
I guess it's pretty good. You don't think we can push that out and say it?
You have about a quarter.
Yeah, but I'm going to stay then, right? I don't know. What deal? What's it? Oh, that's right. You're right. Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
If I flash it, he's only getting 2, right? As long as I'm fit, as long as I don't hit the guard, right?
Just worried if you touch the guard, does he ever play that?
Yeah, it's.
I would.
I don't mind taking a shot at it.
I mean, if you go there half open, it's not great either.
What is that? Why?
Well, he could smash it across the top of this. Well, he could. Well, no, this one goes here, and he just has to get it to here. No, not
If you're on the red, are you shot?
Yeah.
If you're on the red,
Yeah.
are you shot?
Yeah. Oh, if you want to.
It's either that or the hack.
I just worry your lanky guard and makes this.
That's what I said to Nick. Yep. Yep.
We're going to need probably about there then, eh?
Yep. Kind of that same shot. We played a gauge check. I almost did it. I almost didn't.
Jared almost bit it over the
Yeah.
ice thermometer there. That's what he was referring to. But good discussion here, Melissa. Seems like they were deciding between the draw and the hit. Do you like this call to draw?
I think so. You know, we talk all the time about risk versus reward, and Brent could see maybe about a quarter of that blue stone, but if you ever hit the guard, there's a potential you're giving up 4, and both Jared and Jeff have, you know, recognized that fact, and they're not comfortable with that risk at this moment. It's only the second end, so an opportunity here now for Brent. If he doesn't throw this rock, I think
you can go a little bit, Nick.
Yeah, you
Team
gotta go,
Cotter
gotta go.
only has a chance for 2, to be honest. So this is a chance for them to come in to the 4-foot, up to their redstone, and actually be shot stone.
So need to get around this blue one. And it will go just a bit too far. So a great try from Brent Pierce, but unfortunately it does slide just a little bit too far, and Jim Cotter will have a draw for 2.
Makes it harder.
And it's interesting, John, they talked about it before he threw that. They thought that if they came to the face of that redstone that they would actually be shot, but that doesn't appear to be true.
Okay, guys, we're shot.
Oh, okay, nice. Still 4-4 or 4-4 plus? 4-4?
Yeah,
That's
Brent,
great.
even on the way down the ice, said, oh, so he can tap it
We're a
for
little
2,
further out.
and
Yeah.
he doesn't even need to tap it.
This'll, finish harder,
No,
guys.
he doesn't. He just needs, you heard Jim say their shot rock for sure. So this is just a straight draw. You have a bit of backing for a second point.
So first opportunity with hammer in the game for Jim Cotter, and a big opportunity to put 2 points on the board. Needs full 4-foot for 2.
Go then. Line's really good.
Sweepers picked it up right
How's the
away.
weight? Weight's good. Easy then. Whoa, no backing. We're good. Clean, clean.
Well done.
And a great shot from Jim Cotter. So that will be a score of 2 for the team from Vernon, Kelowna, and Kamloops. They'll take a 2-1 lead into the third end, but Team Richard will have the hammer when we come back. You're watching the BC men's semifinal live on Check.
Where is it?
Tight.
In?
Ah,
Not half in.
yeah, it's in.
Okay. Yeah, it's in. Make it good.
Oh, boy.
Okay.
Hello, folks, and welcome back to continuing coverage of the BC men's semifinal, live from Kamloops, BC. It is Team Richard versus Team Cotter. And Melissa, a pretty solid third end here from Team Cotter, sees them pick up 2 and they take the lead.
Yeah, that was a really nice end by Team Cotter, and you know, Team Richard really didn't do too much wrong. But I go back to that shot of Brent Pierce's in his last one there, John. You know, they said they were very confident that if they came to the back when they would be shot, and I think that was a little bit of a mistake. Like you have to know if you're going to be shot or not, and if you're not shot, if you finish even 2 inches higher, it does make Jim Cotter's last shot that much harder. So just, I don't know, just maybe a little bit casual on that.
Good. Nerp's in.
Yeah, it's something we'll keep an eye on for sure. I think, again, we talked a lot about the experience on both sides of the sheet, and maybe sometimes, you know, that experience can work for you, but it can sometimes work against you too, Melissa, that you maybe feel like, okay, I took a look at something once and I feel very confident that I'm right, and maybe it needed a second look.
Yeah, and you know, I don't want to harp on it either, and I just think that, you know, this is the semi-final, the BC Championships, and every inch counts, and that is a perfect example of an inch that kind of came back to bite Team Richard in the second end.
I think we're okay.
No, it looks heavy.
So we'll see if Team
we're fine,
Richard
we're fine.
can
Yeah, okay.
get things back on track here with Hammer in the third. Of course, they got that unfortunate one in the first where they had a blank attempt and Skip Brent Pierce just hit it on the nose. So still waiting for Team Richard to come into the game a little bit. Fair to say, though, Melissa, they had a bit of a slow start against the Islanders this morning as well. Paul Cheka had a shot for 4 with his first in the first end. Not an easy shot, mind you, but it still was there. And luckily for Team Richard, he missed it, but it took them a little while to get going this morning, too. And once they get going, they are a very dangerous team.
I was just going to say the exact same thing, and that, you know, once they get going, they are almost unstoppable, and it's going to be very difficult for Jim Cotter. So he's going to have to be very aware that this Team Richard, as they get going, they get stronger and stronger and stronger throughout the game. I really like where they called that guard, John. If you see it there, it's on center, but it's blocking the draw path, which is to access those 2 corner guards. I think that's such an important placement of that stone. You know, Brent Pierce put up the 2 corners, and obviously they want to use them, and this was a way for Team Cotter to prevent that from happening right away.
So Jared Kolomea looking to get all 3 blues, and
oh boy,
unfortunately just on the wrong side of the inch there. We saw Jared make a ton of those run backs this morning against the Islanders, but unfortunately sticks that one, and it is still Jim Cotter lying 1 without Hammer here.
So Andrew being asked to replace that guard again, just on center, or just ever so slightly off center towards those red stones. You're trying to do quite a bit with this stone. You're trying to also put a guard up and block your own blue stone, but you're also trying to prevent any opportunity for Team Richard to draw around those red stones if they elect to ignore the blue ones. And this one, I think, just over curled by about a rock or 2.
Yeah, I think so too. This will probably give Jared Kolomea the opportunity to get the one closer to the house.
What am I throwing here, the in?
No, I'd throw the out there just across the face, probably.
Just a sliver low?
Okay.
Yeah, sliver low.
So it looks like another attempt at the triple here for Jared Kolomea as he tries to get this conga line of blue stones off of the center. just
Oh, dear.
drives it right by. So you can hear a bit of frustration there from Jared. As we said, this is his bread and butter. You can tell from his Manitoba tuck slide. And growing up in Winnipeg, I think we often think of curlers from Manitoba being great hitters, and Jared is no exception. But now we're getting a little later in the end here, Melissa, and that Jim Cotter stone is starting to look very well protected.
It is indeed. You know, Jim, you saw Jim just go to the other side to have a look at where that redstone ended up on the far left-hand side there as we look at it. You know, he just wanted to make sure that there wasn't a long come around for Team Richard. But I think the best option right now is exactly what he called, and that was the guard for Grant Olson.
So a good look there at Grant Olson. Jim told us earlier this week it's been a long-time dream of Grant and Jim to make the Brier together. Grant, of course, did go to the Brier with Jim back in 2015, but just as a 5th player. This would be the first time he would be going as a full member of the team, if, of course, they're lucky enough to get through these next 2 days. But Jim spoke very fondly of their time growing up together right here in Kamloops, talking about their parents being out playing league and then enjoying the festivities upstairs, is I believe the PC way that Jim put it. And he said him and Grant would go out and throw rocks endlessly until their parents were ready to go home. And so, you know, they say you can never go home, but maybe for Jim and Grant this week, they might have an opportunity to do so and fulfill a childhood dream for both of them. And it's certainly one of the cooler stories here of the week at the BC Championships.
Lines it, hair tight.
So this guard, John, is not easy. They're trying to plug the hole. I mean, obviously there's a lot of redstones up front, so Team Richard's gonna have a run back on something. But that's a great shot there by Grant Olson. You had to be pretty precise on that.
Yeah.
So he does plug that hole, Melissa, but looks like an opportunity here for Jeff Richard. If he could ever stick this red one right there, it would all of a sudden be their rock that's behind a wall of guards.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll go over the top of it. You like that?
No, I like the run. Let's stuff it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How much weight? Control or normal? I think throw like just normal.
Yeah.
John, I think they talked about maybe double peeling the 2 outside rocks at first, but I really, really like this call from Brent. This is an opportunity to try and turn this end around and get yourself into a position to potentially score 1, if not 2. But this one is over curling. Or did it? Oh.
It did. Looked like for a second he might get that.
But yeah.
Yeah, we thought he might get that friendly Kamloops kiss we've seen a few times this week, but unfortunately it doesn't. And you can see by the look on Brent's face, he's mentally preparing for what might be a couple difficult stones here for himself.
I think so.
And Melissa, I think Jim's going to try and put another one in the house here.
Absolutely. It's you know, everything is set up pretty well right now for Jim Cotter. Obviously, again, there's those red stones that Brent's going to use, and obviously he's going to use them. But this is a chance right now to just keep your foot on the gas pedal and put a little more pressure on Brent Pearson, his last 2 stones.
Yeah, yeah.
This should finish pretty big.
So Jim Cotter looking to put a second counter in the house without hammer here.
Nerf's in.
Once this is by, John, it's all about trying to bury this as far as they can, as deep as they can.
Great sweep from Nerpin and Sawatsky. Jim Cotter feeling like it was light right out of his hand, and his premonition was correct, but Nerpin and Sawatsky put the muscles to it, and it is now Jim Cotter lying 2 without hammer.
Not quite 3/4, I don't think. But
And Melissa, that's in a really good spot. This is not going to be easy for Brent to get rid of both of these.
or my peel, anyway.
Just got to make this run and
My
stuff.
peel. I don't think it's going to curl that much, Jeff.
So just listening to Brent, needs to hit about 3/4, he feels. And he feels like it's going to run a little straight.
3/4,
I think it's too long for 3/4. It's like a
7/8.
thick 3/4 or a thin 7/8. It's kind of long.
Yeah.
Well, we saw Brent make a tremendous run back this morning against the Islanders. We'll see if he can tap into the magic one more time here.
Yeah, this is definitely a pressure shot here for Brent Pierce. He needs to make this one and try and alleviate some of the pain that Jim Cotter is causing him here in this third end.
Yep. Yep. Well. Yeah. Hard. Hard.
So it just curls up at the end, and he will only get rid of the one Jim Cotter stone. So it is still Jim Cotter lying 1 without hammer here in the third.
And now you have a look out front there, John, and they're really, I really can't see a good way for Brent to utilize any of those stones out front. So important placement here, I think, for Jim Cotter to put this in a spot where you want Brent Pierce to have to make a cold draw to the forefoot for a point. I mean, you look at that right now, it's perfectly buried. If you can ever come in on top or even tap it into the forefoot a bit.
Couple feet, guys.
There you go. Tap it up a few feet.
Okay.
Brent is going to have to find a way to score by hitting the forefoot. I'm guessing he's not going to be able to hit anything.
And that won't be an easy draw. He'll have to go wide for that one, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Unfortunately, Jim Cotter might be a scary troll guarding that bridge if he manages to tap this one up for 2. So he's currently lying 1 without hammer. Jim Cotter with his last, looking to lie 2.
Whoa. Clean, yep.
And that is really starting to break.
Whoa.
Just want to tap it a few feet here. What a fantastic shot by Jim Cotter.
Good sweep, boys. Oh boy. Good sweep.
That top one, can you take one of them up?
Thinking like board.
Right. On the one. I think we got to try it. There's no draw shot here. Yeah, that's a super hard shot, let me tell you right there.
For give up 1.
It's buried now.
You don't think it'll? It's pretty high.
Or I just hit that one onto this one. I think it takes.
Yeah. It's risky. I mean, there's the heavy draw too, and just spin down, but that's super hard. Whatever you like here, Brent.
I guess it doesn't automatically hit it, eh? Yeah, we should be able to poke the top one out, Jeff. It's like bumper. Hack the bumper.
Order.
Well, we got to have enough weight to push it out. Okay, let's give it a try. Solid. I got to have hack. Got to have hack.
So it sounds like, Melissa, they're either trying to push this one far enough that they'd only give up one or maybe get really lucky and spin in for one. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean they looked at a couple of options for sure, but I think Jared was right. This is the only shot they have. A hack weight. You know, Brent wanted to throw a little bit more than hack, but I like the hack weight because you might get lucky, as you say, John, and spin the shooter into the forefoot depending on where you hit this rock. It doesn't matter how far you push the top one out, it's not going to count. It's going to be between the one he's throwing and the one that's sitting in the forefoot right now.
All right, so we'll see if Brent Pierce can spin this one in. He's on the top one. It won't spin far enough, but he does get rid of the one Jim Cotter counter. So a dominant end from Team Cotter from start to finish, and they will steal one here in the third. They'll take a 3-1 lead into the fourth. You're watching the BC Men's Provincial Curling Championships live on Check. Hello, folks, and welcome back to continuing coverage of the BC Men's Provincial Curling Championships. John Cullen alongside Melissa Saligo here for this men's semifinal between 9-time champion Jim Cotter and 2-time champion Jeff Richard. And Melissa, that third end, I think, is a word we don't use too often, but a clinic put on by Team Cotter there to get that steal.
That's a very good way to put it. You know that if you're throwing guards in the third position and even the skip's first shot, then you know you're in good shape, obviously. And so, you know, Jim made a great one on his last as well. And it goes back, I think, down the lineup. If you looked even at Jared's two rocks, you know, normally we saw him play those run back doubles, making them all the time, and he just stuck both of them. And I think that's what got them into a little bit of trouble. You know, Team Richard is very used to Jared making all of those shots. So great end there by Jim Cotter, and unfortunately for Brent, couldn't finish off his last shot there. He threw it well, and it just didn't spin off enough. He needed it to curl less, but either way, he was going to give up a potential steal of one anyway. So no harm, no foul, just giving up the steal of one.
Yeah, we've talked about that a couple times this week as a skip. One of the shots you hate to be throwing when you have to focus in and you really have to dial yourself in to make a shot just to give up a steal of one. That's always an unfortunate spot to be in.
It is. It's tough, and you have to wrap your head around that, right? You got to put yourself in the right mindset and say it's okay. Like, we're only down 2. We've got hammer here in the all-important 4th even end, and now we just need to try and get a group of a collection of shots together and try and get deuce right back.
So we'll see if Team Richard can do that here in the 4th. They have the hammer and they have 2 corner guards. So they will hope to get some mojo going here in this end. And we talked earlier this draw, and I guess I shouldn't say this draw, this day, this morning, we were talking about how Jim Cotter's one of the best at turning it on at the BC Provincials. Obviously a 9-time champion. He's been to the Brier 10 times representing BC. And he taps into this other state when he gets into the BC Provincials, and particularly into the playoffs. In fact, some of us players, when we're texting each other, we call him Playoff Jim. And feels like, Melissa, we're seeing a little bit of playoff Jim here so far. He made 2 fantastic shots there in the 3rd, made a couple great shots in the 2nd to get there too. And it's a scary proposition for other teams when Jim is clicking.
Oh, I couldn't agree more, and we've seen him just get better and better every time we see him play, and it really doesn't matter, and I said that in an earlier game or earlier broadcast, it doesn't matter what happened before this, it even doesn't matter what happened before today. It's all about what happens this weekend, and you're playing all of these sudden death games. You're in the provincial semi-final, and if you've got a skip like Jim who just somehow gets into that mindset, gets into that zone, he's really, really hard to stop.
There, high side.
Yeah, and just almost on cue, I got the stats report from our tournament, one of our tournament liaisons here for Curl BC, Will Sutton. He's helping us out with the stats here, and Jim currently curling 100% through 3 ends. So thank you, Will, for helping to make me look incredibly smart.
Really gotta go.
Didn't want to jam and stick that, but luckily they roll out, and it's Jim Cotter once again lying a couple without hammer.
As well? Yeah, I think so.
Okay. I think speed's pretty good here, guys.
So Jared's throwing the freeze here. He just wants to corner freeze this blue Cotter stone. You know, we talk about it, one of the hardest shots is the freeze for sure, and one of the worst things that can happen is if you ever, hit and just tick off the freeze, and that's a tough result. So for Jared and his brushers, they haven't laid a broom to it, but they really want to lock this right on that blue Cotter stone. It just might be a foot, well, it's pretty good, I would say, John. Good result.
Yeah, really nice shot from Jared, showing a nice touch there. As we said last end, I think we think of Jared as a good hitter, but he certainly has that draw game in his locker as well.
Coming in here, he's just in off, right?
Are we still shot?
We're shot.
Yeah, I don't mind that tight guard. I don't mind tight so we can't make that red run later.
So usually, Melissa, when you don't have the hammer, and especially when you're up 2, you don't love to be throwing a corner guard. Is this the right call in your view?
I think you almost have to, and the reason why is this is Jim Cotter showing respect for his opposition here. He knows that they will use that red corner and run it into those 2 rocks in the house. So this is one of the ways you defend against that. If you could just ever get just slightly past that red guard and try and protect the one in the house as well as prevent the run back from happening, then you've kind of made a twofer, if that's a word. I don't know, I'm making it up now, but you've hit a 2 for 1 shot there, and I think that was important. But unfortunately, I think that over curled by maybe 6 inches.
Yeah, I think twofer is a word, but only in Canada.
Is it?
Yeah. Twofer and
not, it is
2-4.
now.
Those are
2-4.
both Canadian words. Well, 2-4 is a little more Ontario though than BC. So maybe I shouldn't be saying that. We don't really have a good word for that in BC. We don't call the 18 pack a 1-8.
No, we don't.
Maybe we should start. Maybe we should start that. I don't know.
So Jeff Richard being asked to throw pretty much the same shot here that Jared was, just a freeze right on that redstone. This is a great setup shot and nicely done by Jeff.
So a nice pair of rocks from Double J, Jared and Jeff. And Jim Cotter having a look here. It's the first time really we've seen him a little perplexed.
Go deeper. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I'd be a little nervous, I think, if I was Jim Cotter right now with those
What's
two
that?
redstones, the way they're lined up.
No.
And you can see half of
First
it, so
is here.
you hit what you can see and that blue one is
Back
gone.
4.
So
T-line is fine. Back 4.
I like this call, John. I think you have to get another blue stone in the rings, and it has to be first or second shot. You've got to outcount those 2 stones if Brent Pierce was to make a run on the red onto blue there. So really important here. Back 4 I like as well. Doesn't have to be T-line. These are one of the options of being a little bit deeper as long as it's in and counting.
Got to get by that top one. They do. Can they get around it for second shot? They will. So pretty good from Grant Olson, I think, Melissa.
I think so too, and I'll just point out, just to clarify, one of the reasons they wanted that back, T-line back 4 is they never want to give Jeff Richard an opportunity to hit and roll behind those 3 stones as we see them on the left. So, back 4 would have been perfect. It may have drawn Brent into trying to freeze to it. So we'll hear what they're discussing now.
Yeah. Which isn't the end of the world.
Freeze? I don't know how much you're gonna be able to do back.
I don't like the freeze. He guards. We're probably.
You can't guard everything.
How do we kill after?
Well,
I really like your first call. I think that's pretty good.
It's a hard shot for starters.
It is a hard shot, yeah.
This rock's gonna go to here. He's gonna send a blast to both of them. That's all that's gonna happen. I was even thinking of just run that and roll.
You ever just make the nose double?
That's what I was thinking. If you make the nose, if just off nose double roll there, it's kind of hard. If you just roll it here, you can't guard both.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Well, whatever. We need some kind of a miss. Firm? Firm? Yeah. Yeah.
Like a millimeter my side. I don't hate your first call.
I like that conversation there, John. A couple of options, obviously. There was the hitting the 2 red ones and trying to roll to the middle. We'll have 3 rocks in play. Now they've elected to play the double on these 2 stones and roll ever so slightly to the center line. Oh boy.
Yeah, unfortunately, they don't get the double and they roll the shooter out of the house, and it remains Jim Cotter lying 2 without hammer.
Yeah, that was a bit of a mistake there by Jeff Richard. Number 1 needed to keep his shooter in play. So decision time here for Jim Cotter.
But if we guard, it does make that. We're freezing on top. That one has to come out. Make a double back. Just guard that. I think so, hey?
You ever guard this? I don't know. Just then he hits and makes a roll, then you lob around.
No, I
No?
think I hear what you're saying. But if he even knows, we know that he's got, he's gonna have something back, right? You'll either have that way back or this way back.
Yeah.
I think we just guard. Right there, look good for you. That look good.
So I guess the concern here, Melissa, for Jim is he just wants to ensure that if Brent uses those reds or tries to hit those reds, he's still got his shot stone guarded in the middle. Is that right?
I think so. And, you know, Jim made a good point, or sorry, Brent made a good point earlier, is that Jim can't guard everything. So you can't guard the one in the 4 foot, even though that was not supposed to be there if Jeff made his double, and you can't guard the 2 reds on the right. So, but I think you have no option here. You have to put this in a position of guarding your shot stone and let Brent Pierce make a very, very difficult shot off those 2 reds and try and roll into a perfect spot. I don't think there's really any other option. You could bring this in fairly tight as well.
Just half. Yep.
Sounds like it's just about halfway.
Yep.
So looking to guard the first shot stone here. And it will come up a little short of where they wanted it. So potentially some air here for Brent Pierce, Melissa.
I think they wanted that at least another 5 to 7 feet deeper. And the reason they wanted that is if Brent ever makes the shot on those 2 reds and rolls in or even doubles for some reason, they want a rock that they can use, and that one unfortunately is a bit too far out.
Thin quarter, yeah.
What do you think? What do you think about that?
Thinner the better, because in that red, that high red doesn't spin as much. He's probably going to have the double right
More
back.
Than 8.
Yeah.
Almost playing to miss it.
Like it's a super thin.
Put it where you think. Put it where you think.
Less
Normal.
than a quarter. Kind of wait.
So we're getting both the back end and the front end discussions there as Jared runs through the options with Nick and Brent runs through the options with Jeff. So he's obviously making a play on those reds. Melissa, where does he want his shooter to end up here?
I actually think I heard Brent make the comment they almost want to miss it. So they're trying for the double. They're trying to hit that top red one as thin as possible, like maybe an 1/8 of a rock, and try and double off shot stone that's sitting in the 4 foot. And they'll double out the blues if they make contact with that first red.
So Brent Pierce could be lying 3 when the dust settles here. His first stone in the 4th. Looks close.
Oh, wow.
And unfortunately only lying 1. I think they and us up here in the commentary booth, I think all thought that would end up in a bit better of a situation for Team Richard there.
I would fully agree. You know, it looked like it was lined up pretty easy for that blue stone to go out, but there was maybe a couple of inches in between, and I guess that's what made the difference. And Brent hit that perfect. He obviously hit it where he needed to make the double of the one that's in the shot stone that was in the top 4, but unfortunately by hitting it so thin, the 2 reds lost its momentum and unfortunately could not remove that other blue stone. So great shot by Brent Pierce, but not a great result.
No, not at all, as Jim Cotter will have a shot here to lie 2, and if he could ever get a shade inside here, Melissa, might be another potential steal for the Cotter rink. So we'll see what happens here. Jim Cotter's last stone without hammer here in the 4th, and he's leading by 2.
Whoa. Clean.
Got to get by this guard. And he will not.
And
he bumps that one in for second shot. My goodness. You do not see misses like that from Jim Cotter too often.
Oh my goodness.
Not only does he tick the guard, but he bumps that Richard Stone in for a second counter.
I like that.
And now it's an open draw for 3 for Brent Pierce.
Speed's
And
nice.
the look on Grant Olson's face tells the story there.
This becomes if Brent makes this perfect, and I don't have any doubt that he will, John, that is a 5-point swing.
Yep.
So final stone for Brent Pierce, and if he gets this one where he wants it, it will be to take the lead.
Never gonna hurt it. Right on the tee line. We're on the tee line.
Clean it. Clean it.
So just needs a piece of the forefoot
Clean it.
here.
We're right on the tee line.
And like you say, Melissa, Brent Pierce makes no mistake. And so a critical error from Jim Cotter, and Brent Pierce makes him pay. It's a 4-3 lead for Team Richard, but Team Cotter will have the hammer when we come back. You're watching the BC Men's semifinal live on Check.
The weight. This one has come
Yep.
down on us.
Line's a little bit snug. Line's okay. Line's okay. Top 4.
Yeah, we're there.
Top 4. Top 4. Top 4.
Hello, curling fans, and welcome back to continuing coverage of the BC Men's Provincial Curling Championships live from Kamloops, British Columbia. Men's semi-final action. It's Team Jeff Richard against Team Jim Cotter. And Melissa, we were talking in the break. We were both we were silent for the first minute into the break because I think we were both still in shock after Jim Cotter made a huge mistake on his last throw and gave Team Richard the opportunity for 3.
Well, as you said, John, you just never see that from Jim Cotter, and if you do see it, it's so rare that you would never expect it. And unfortunately for Jim Cotter, not only did he hit the guard, that's one thing, but now to hit the guard and push your opposition in for second shot and give your opposition a free draw for 3, that is just a little bit of salt in the wound.
So Brent Pierce electing to throw the first stone in the house, and Jim Cotter deciding to hit it. And now with Nick rolling out of the house, this will allow Jim to get a corner guard up here. And a pretty big miss there from Nick Meister. I think Pierce would have been very happy to take the blank there.
Oh, I would agree, and I think Jim Cotter wants to blank this 5th end as well. He'd be very, very happy to blank and take the hammer in the 6th end after the break.
so that will slip into the rings, or maybe they were throwing it there. I'm not too sure, but
I think so. I think so.
okay. Well, there we go. So Jared Colomea will hit this one, and looks like we are taking a trip here, Melissa. We might be heading to our favorite town.
I'm
You
excited.
want to know how you're getting there this time?
No, I would. I mean, no. I mean, yes. I would love to know how we're getting there.
All right. Well, I hope you have Mr. Goodyear's phone number, because that's right. We're taking a blimp to Blanksville.
I've never been on a blimp. That's cool.
Me neither. I assume they're fun to be in. I don't even know how you get on one. I do know.
That's a really good point.
I'll give you a fun fact about blimps, Melissa.
Okay.
Are you ready for this? Strap in here.
I'm ready. I'm
Okay,
ready.
so now, obviously, back in the in the early 1900s, they were convinced that blimps were going to be what airplanes became. They thought that, we'd be taking blimps all over the country as commercial travel. So, the spire that's on the top of the Empire State Building, the original intention of that was not to be like a radio tower or anything like that. It was actually to dock blimps.
Really?
Yeah, that was the original intention for building the spire on top of the Empire State Building. They thought they would have like kind of a blimp airport at the top of Empire State Building, and they would dock the blimps on the spire. So the more you know. That's true. I'm not even making that up. You can
no,
Google
I
that
totally
right now.
believe you. I really do. I believe you.
Sometimes when you have a blank end, you got to teach the fans at home something about life. The important facts about blimps. So I'm a little curious. We'll get back to the curling at hand here, Melissa. Brent Pierce, like we said, throws that first rock in the house. What do you think the reason would be for Jim? He didn't even think about it. He immediately went up there and hit it. What would be the reasoning for that? Because in the past few ends, we've seen him throw a corner guard in the same situation.
Well, I think there's two reasons. One is, like I said earlier, is that Jim would be very, very happy to blank this end and take Hammer into the sixth end, the even end. But second thing is there's been a lot of rocks in play, and now we haven't had a chance to see the time clocks, and we can't see them from our view. But I would imagine that there's been a lot of conversations, a lot of things going on, a lot of rocks in play. So maybe both teams are just feeling that they've used up some time, and this is an easy way to bank some.
Well, as you said, both teams seem to be okay with the blank, so could be a situation where, both teams are maybe a little shorter on time than they'd like to be. I mean, 23 minutes is an awful lot, but yeah, the 19 number is a little short. So, it could be a case of both teams just looking to bank a little more time. There have certainly been some strategy discussions early on, so I think you could be onto something there, partner.
Well, you know me and my theories, John. I like to present you with theories.
Yeah, and they're usually right. So I just hop on the blimp with you, and I go for a ride. So Brent Pierce.
As long as you're not driving, by the way.
Oh
I
yeah, no, I would. Okay, deal.
Okay.
Good control. And you can really see Brent trying to save some time there already in the hack when that Cotter rock coming to rest. And wow, we're getting a real scream here from Brent. Is it possible that he's in danger of flashing this stone?
Oh, wow.
Oh, my goodness. Just gets a sliver of it. That's that same outturn that gave him problems in that same spot in the first. Wow, that really curled. So it was almost a free two there for Jim, but luckily Brent just gets enough of that.
Thank you, Nick Meiser, for his incredible sweeping, I would say.
Yeah, no kidding. So this is one of those things we talked about earlier, Melissa. The one thing, obviously, Brent didn't want to get that close to missing it, but with him rolling out, Jim gets a free draw here and maybe gets a chance to see what a path is doing and maybe get a little bit more locked into his draw weight.
I agree. I think that's so important, you know, when you are the skip and you're in the fifth end of a championship game here, a semifinal game, and you get a free draw, you're going to go to school and you're going to lock that in, you're going to learn about it, and you're going to just put it away in case you need it and remember what that path did. Every piece of information is crucial.
Nice and firm.
So Brent Pierce throwing this out turn again. This one looks a little more solid. And he will stick around this time. So Jim Cotter will have to make the hit for the blank. We will have an interview with Brent Pierce coming up in the fifth end break. Hear what he has to say about the first half of the game for his team. So final stone for Jim Cotter, looking for a blank and to take the hammer into the sixth end. And he will make no mistakes. So we'll hear from Brent Pierce in a little bit, but first it's back to the studio with Stacy and Kevin. You're watching the BC Men's Provincial Championship live on Check. Hey everyone, we've got the skip of Team Richard here, Brent Pierce. Oh, it's Jeff Richard. Sorry. Hi, Jeff. What's
Hi,
up?
John.
Did,
Hi,
did
John.
Brent's already skipping out on the interview or what?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So Jeff, obviously an interesting first half of the game, a big miss from Jimmy, and you guys were able to capitalize. What have you seen out there so far from your team?
You know, we were a little sloppy the first half of the game here. A fortunate break in 4 there with Jim Rack in the garden pushing us in. You know, we're going to go in and talk about it. We got to clean a few things up and get ready to battle for the second half because, as expected, our games with Jim always go down to the wire. So this second half, we just got to clean things up a little bit more. Focus on some lines and some weights and stuff like that. And I think, you know, we've been in this situation before, so I'm sure we'll be able to figure it out and put a good second half together.
Hey Jeff, how are you feeling? Like, is everything staying status quo with the ice and the rock conditions? Like, it looks like the ice is really, really nice for this game.
This has been fantastic. This is very similar to the 1-2 game, maybe even a touch more curl on the hits, and I think that's where we're running into a few issues. I mean, Mike and the team have done an outstanding job. This is as close to arena conditions as you're going to get, so everybody I've talked to, we're ecstatic about the ice, and you know, we're just happy to be able to try and showcase the talents on it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jeff. Best of luck in the second half of the game. We'll let you go, but keep it up, and hopefully we'll be talking to you after as well. All right, we will head on out to break. We'll see you back here very soon. Hello, curling fans, and welcome back. It's a beautiful night here in Kamloops, British Columbia. John Cullen alongside 4-time BC Scotties champion Melissa Saligo. We're talking about the men's semifinal here. It is Team Richard against Team Cotter, and Melissa, Team Richard up 4-3 here. after the break. Jim Cotter will have the hammer in the 6th. What are you expecting to do, or what are you expecting to see Jim Cotter do when we come back from the break?
I really think that Jim is going to go fairly hard, I think, for his 2 in the 6th end. He's still probably reeling from that mistake that he made a couple of ends ago, and he needs to figure out how to get right back. Like, he's in the game still, don't get me wrong, but it's about getting 2 back now in the 6th. Take a couple of chances now, and then if he needs to do something different in the next couple of ends, he still has time to do that. So that's what I'm thinking that Jim's going to do.
Yeah, I think it'll be. I think we'll see a little bit more of an aggressive move from Jim Cotter. We saw in the 5th end, he seemed happy to blank, but we know that he does like to get rocks in play, and he does like to, keep the mix alive, keep things going. And it did cost him there in that 4th end, but I do think in the second half of the game he will do that. And Melissa, we got a little stats update in the break here after 5 ends. And we talk a lot about curling stats, and we'll bring them up on broadcasts and things like that. But maybe a case here of the stats not telling the full story, because after half of the game, we've got Jim Cotter's team percentage sitting at 85.6%, and we have Brent Pierce's team, or Jeff Richards' team rather, sitting at 78%. So a full almost 8 points behind as a team, but they're ahead on the scoreboard.
Well, and that simply comes down to one shot, right, John? It's, we've pretty much seen Jim Cotter's team outplay Brent Pierce and his squad for sure. And it does come down to that one shot, unfortunately, by Jim Cotter. He had a hack weight, board weight hit, and it just rubbed the guard. And like I said earlier, it not only rubbed the guard, but just an unfortunate break by tapping the opposition stone in for 2, and then Brent having a free draw for 3. So that's the difference on the scoreboard, not the difference in the percentages.
Yeah, exactly. And, we talk about making and missing at the right time in curling, and that the numbers maybe don't always tell the story. And that has been the case so far. A big miss from Jim Cotter and a couple key makes from Brent Pierce, and it is Team Richard in the lead as we get a look at the teams coming back out on the ice for the second half. And we'll see if they can avoid any blanks. I don't know if I have any great facts about blimps left, so hopefully they're just ready to mix it up for the remaining 5 ends. And we saw both teams maybe a little short on the time clocks too, Melissa, so that's something we'll keep an eye on. Of course, both teams start with 38 minutes and 2 timeouts, and so both teams are now getting close to being down to around half of that total. You can see Jim Cotter a little above half, so they're probably not super worried, but something to keep an eye on for both teams as shot discussions tend to ramp up in the second half of the game, and both teams do still have both of their timeouts as well. So we'll keep an eye on that and everything else here as we get into the second half of this game, and we'll see what happens. We'll see if they decide to get aggressive here in the 6th.
And I think for Team Richard, honestly, they're going to try and push the envelope. They had that momentum change basically on that miss by Jim Cotter, so they're going to try and ride that as long as they can, and I think they're going to try and put as much pressure as possible on Jim Cotter and maybe force another mistake out of him.
So we heard from Jared Colomea, something we've been talking about all week, that typically when you come back after the 6th end, the ice has been scrubbed and it's had a chance to sit for a little bit, and usually we see the ice be a little bit quicker, and that's what Jared Colomea was suggesting. As we do see Jim do as you predicted here, Melissa. He's going to throw up a corner guard.
2/3.
And it was nice to talk to Jeff in the break, and the testament that he gave to the ice conditions. And again, Mike Merklinger and his crew have just been so fantastic all week with these ice conditions. Very consistent, and as Jeff said in his own words, as similar to arena ice as you can get, and that's all you can ask for a championship.
Yeah, as we know, the championship was originally slated to take place in an arena over in the MacArthur Island Sports Complex there in Kamloops, and unfortunately we had a little bit of time where we thought maybe this provincial championship would have to be canceled due to the recent surge in COVID-19 cases, and so the provincials were outright canceled, and the arena was canceled, and then we found out that the rules put forth by Dr. Bonnie Henry actually allow for sports tournaments to be played as long as they are qualifiers for a national or international event. And so that's the proviso we're working under here. And so obviously it was a last-minute switch for the organizing committee led by Brenda Norden and Linda Bolton, and they were able to make a last-minute switch and put this into the Kamloops Curling Club instead. And as you say, when you get a curler saying that the curling club ice is mimicking arena ice, that's a very high compliment, a testament to the organizing committee, to the ice making crew, and to everybody for being able to organize these provincials last minute.
And I have to say, just putting my Crow BC hat on for a moment, and we're forever grateful for the great job that Kamloops has done.
So a nice hit and roll there by Rick Sawatsky. And that maybe rolled just a little too far. No, actually perfect roll.
Oh, really, really good.
Dead buried. Great shot from Jared Kolomea, and this will force the run back from Andrew Nurpin.
Turn away.
Good regular.
Good reg, okay.
Yep. Whoa, whoa.
Would love to catch that one in the rings as well.
Okay, good, that's fine.
He will catch it, but he catches a little too much of it, and
Good throw, sorry.
so an opportunity here for Team Richard, as Jim Cotter acknowledging that that was a misplaced broom rather than a poor throw from Andrew Nurpin. And you talked, Melissa, about Team Richard wanting to keep the pressure on Jim Cotter. They're certainly doing a good job of that so far.
Absolutely, and that is the key for Team Richard, and Jeff alluded it too. They have to make more shots. They talked about just being a little sharper out there, and it's all about this very, very important rock placement, and that's what Team Richard is working extremely hard on, is trying to put those rocks in the right place and continue to put pressure on Jim Cotter and his squad.
So another nice shot there from Jared Kolomea, and that's been the theme of the fifth end break interviews today. Marianne Arsenault saying exactly the same thing. We asked her what the key to the second half of the game for her team was going to be, and she literally just gave the three-word answer: make more shots. So that worked out well for them. They were victors, and we'll see them in the ladies' final tomorrow at 9 a.m. And so a similar edict put forth by Jeff Richard here.
Swat.
This is getting by the guard by a ton here, and I don't think he's going to have anything, so a big miss there.
Yeah, an unfortunate flash there from Andrew Nurpin, and the scales have tipped here in the favor of Jeff Richard over the last 30 minutes or so.
That's one of those shots, John, that you talk about the acceptance or the tolerance or the plan B, and on that situation you're playing the one in the house, but if you ever tick the guard, that is okay. The only thing you really don't want to do is what happened there and go right by everything. So really not a great shot there by Andrew Nurpin.
Yeah, often we will even hear skips bring that up, Melissa. Sorry to interrupt,
Exactly.
but we'll hear them bring it up and say, this is the tolerance on this shot, or this is the plan B, and that helps the thrower too, right? Because then you know exactly how you want to shape the shot, and you know what the miss is. And so, yeah, as you say, for Andrew Nurpin, not finding the plan A or B or even plan Z on his shot. So we'll see if Grant Olson can bail them out here. Would have loved to get rid of two of those guards, but It will go right through the hole, and it is still Jeff Richard lying 2 without hammer.
Yeah, a lot of work here to do for Jim Cotter right now with the hammer. He doesn't have a lot of access to that button area, that forfeit area for this to score right now. So they're hoping for maybe a half shot here from Jeff Richard so that they can have access to something and clean it up. Because right now it is looking very, very difficult for Jim to find a way to score. And you can feel the momentum, John. You can just feel the energy, I think, from Team Richard a little bit more. And they're just working super hard to put those rocks in the exact spot. Not just an okay spot, but the exact spot.
Yeah, and that's a pretty great spot there from Jeff Richard. There might be enough room for Grant Olson to run this one in, though.
No, that's fine. Even if you nick the red, you still come back. Good Reg.
Not so sure Grant is thrilled with the prospect of having to throw this shot.
No, I think they could play the double peel again. Obviously, that would give Team Richard the opportunity to guard it on Brent's first. This is a very, very difficult shot. You're pretty much hitting what you can see, and it looks like he might be on the red guard.
Yeah, just over curling a little bit on Grant Olson, and so it does continue to be Team Richard lying 2 without hammer here in the 6th.
And I'm not for sure that this is the situation, but that's a situation where we talked about in the previous game with Sarah Work that you have to buy into the shot that is called. Before you let that rock go, you need to be 100% committed to making that shot. And as you said, I don't think Grant was 100% there yet.
Yeah, it seemed like he even, Jim liked that shot right from the outset, and Grant's comment was, well, I can't see all of it.
Put it back, eh?
And Jim was sort of like, well,
Put it back where it was.
see what you can do. And he did give a plan B. He said if you just nicked the red, you might still get the blue moving into the house anyway. But yeah, unfortunately, didn't seem to be a shot that Grant Olson favored, and he does indeed miss it. So just a case of replacing the guard here, I think, for Brent Pierce.
I think so.
Weights, pretty good.
Halfway tight.
Tight.
Never need to.
Never
Clean
need
it!
to for weight.
Keep it out there! Keep it out there!
It's to the blue easy.
It's like exactly to the blue. Maybe touch just tapping it.
Curl, curl, curl. Okay.
So a little heavier than Brent wanted, I think, on that, Melissa.
I think so. He was not very happy with that at all. He wanted his sweepers to keep it out there, but you can't really when you know it's heavy right off the get-go. Now, does Jim play the same shot he asked Grant to play, or does he double peel these? I think Brent might have taken that shot away, but we'll have a look and see what Jim thinks. He thinks it's there.
Yeah, the only difference between this one and the Grant shot is there was a little separation between those two rocks for Grant, whereas now these rocks are touching, so it makes it a little trickier, but at the same time does make the tick a little bit easier. If he were to just tick the outside of that red one, it would get the blue moving into the house. So it's an either-or shot here for Jim, and he's going to have to make something happen as Team Richard continues to lie 2 and only 2 rocks to come after this.
Yep. Hard! Watch that blue! Hard, Grant!
What a
hard!
shot by Jim Cotter. Oh my
boy,
goodness.
Talk about a turnaround. He does get a
Okay,
little
then.
tick off the red, but it gets that blue moving into the house like he said and gets rid of both reds, and now it's Jim Cotter lying 1 half buried behind this corner guard.
So let's just recap. That was a double peel, or I guess a run back double, and he rolled his blue one and a double peeled as well, and then rolled his blue one almost fully buried behind a corner guard.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yep. Yeah,
Okay,
I think your original call was actually right. I think it's a double peel run back double, I think. Is
Double
what we would
peel.
officially call
Yeah,
it.
I think so.
A little more,
I
no?
think that's right.
So
What an
yeah.
incredible shot by Jim Cotter, and that's the thing, right? We talk about when you see it as a skip, if you see the shot, and he absolutely saw that shot. He saw it on Grant's, and he even saw it on his. So unbelievable.
So it's up to Brent Pierce to respond here. Jim Cotter is sitting the shot stone. Brent just needs to make it go away. And he will make no mistake. So this end wasn't looking like we were taking a trip to our favorite town, but it's all aboard. We've got a one-way ticket to Blanksville here as Jim will try to make this Jeff Richard stone go away. Jim Cotter looking for the blank.
Yep, clean.
And he will find it. So a tremendous bailout on his first shot. Secures the blank for Jim Cotter. He will have the hammer for the third end in a row when we come back. You're watching the BC men's semifinal live on Check.
Probably real tight. Can't yet.
Whoa, looks in.
Yeah, we're in.
Hello, folks, and welcome back to continuing coverage of the BC Men's Provincial Curling Championships
That's fine.
live on Check and cbcsports.ca, presented by Best Western. And Nick Meister throws the guard in the house, and Jim Cotter electing to hit it here, Melissa. And I'm guessing this is just a case of taking a peek at the scoreboard and wanting the hammer in that eighth.
Absolutely. Jim would have been very happy if that rock came short to either come around or throw a corner guard. He was all set to potentially set his house up for trying to get two here, but he is not going to be unhappy at all about blanking this end and taking hammer into the eighth. So John, I do want to go back to that shot. I was trying to write it all out. And I think what Jim threw there was a peel, run back, double, roll to shot 3/4 under cover.
Okay. You're the
Okay,
expert.
I've got it.
All right. Yeah, it was a truly tremendous shot from Jim Cotter. And, you know, we talk about making and missing and making shots at the right time. And that was really one for Jim. I think, Melissa, you know, fair to say the momentum was starting to find its way over to Team Richard. They had especially a phenomenal sixth end. And for Jim to make that shot is a real boost of confidence, both for him and for his team.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. And I think that, you know, Grant, as we mentioned, wasn't bought in, and he didn't see that. He didn't see it the same way that Jim saw it. But on Jim's shot himself, he committed to it. He saw it. He had the mindset for it, and he didn't miss. He just threw that as well as he could have and just got a tremendous result.
So they're trying to throw a center guard here, which looks like it might be a little bit heavy. Would have been interesting if Jared were to throw the center guard here to see if Jim would have just peeled it or elected to come around it, but we will not get to see what he would have decided, since the rock does slip into the rings, and Jim will just ask Andrew to remove it. Both teams curling quite well here, Melissa. I'm just getting an update on the numbers after 6. Team Cotter's percentage sitting at 83% rather. And Team Richard right behind at 80%. And a great skips battle so far. Jim Cotter curling 87.5%. Brent Pierce curling 84%. So a really good battle between those two gentlemen you see right there. 12 BC championships between the two of them.
Never light.
So again, trying to throw the tight guard, but the error here, or the acceptance level, is obviously to be in the rings, and that's okay. I mean, you know, they would like to throw a center guard just probably to see what Jim would do, just like we want to see what Jim would do, but you know, tolerance for sure is to slip into the rings.
So Andrew Nerpin obviously would prefer not to roll out here, as he did last time, and just keep the hits coming inside the house. And Melissa, you might have to get your ticket.
It's getting, you know, they're hard to get these days.
Well, this is actually a different ticket, Melissa. You're actually going to need a ticket to the Everglades in Florida.
Oh,
And the reason
wow.
for that is because you got to get down there to get on a hovercraft, because the hovercraft is our one-way ticket to Blanksville.
You're getting more and more creative, John. I like it.
I'm running out of vehicles. It's a good
I
thing
know
there's
you are.
only there's only 2.5 games left. Have you ever been on a hovercraft before?
I have not.
Fun, guys.
Me neither. It seems too scary to me.
I agree.
It also feels very Florida to me. Like, hey, what if we just took a boat and we strapped a giant fan to the back of it, and then we put a bunch of fans underneath it? Maybe that would do something? Seems crazy to me.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like something I want to do.
But you'll have to. If we go to Blanksville, you'll have no choice.
That's true. That's true.
So we'll all experience it for the first time. Do you want to drive the hovercraft? Do you want to drive the blimp?
I think so. I think I'm a better driver than you.
Okay. I'll allow it.
Thank you.
Okay.
And that will just hang on. Those are kind of fun ones in a blank end scenario where you just put it in a spot where it's maybe a little bit of a different look here for Grant Olson.
And I think for Grant too, and Team Cotter, obviously, if they hit and roll out, that's okay. If they hit and nose it, that's okay. As you say, it's a different look. Just make sure it goes away. That's number one.
Yeah, I think he's going to throw normal. Normal?
Yeah. Even firm.
So Brent looking to stick around here. The nose hit. And that will just roll out, so gives Jim Cotter another chance for a free draw here. And you said earlier in the game, Melissa, this type of information can always be used.
Exactly. You never know, right? You never know. So you're trying to find a path that maybe you just haven't seen since the beginning of the game, or you haven't seen recently, or you haven't seen at all, and just try and throw a nice draw path and gather the information.
Looks to me too here like maybe Jim's trying to get it over to where that Richard rock ended up. It's unlikely that it would ever jam and roll into the house, but I think it is possible.
Just makes you think, right? When Brent goes to throw his last one, it'll just make him think that little extra about where to hit his stone and just to be maybe that extra bit careful.
Absolutely. So Jim Cotter just drawing to an empty house here. Would love to hit paint. Both sweepers completely backed off here. Will this stop in time? It won't, and so this is actually a little bit interesting here, Melissa.
It is too. Brent Pierce has the opportunity now to freeze on that stone and freeze on the inside actually, and just make it, again, just make it more difficult for Jim Cotter to blank here. So for, you know, I would say if I was Team Cotter about halfway into the house when you knew that was going to be heavy, they should have swept it right through and out of play, not just leave it there.
Got a curl, guys.
So Brent Pierce looking for a little tricky side saddle freeze here to see if he can maybe force Jim Cotter into one. And unfortunately, it just goes a little bit too deep. I think Jim shouldn't have too much trouble getting rid of this, Melissa.
I don't think so. I think he can just punch it right through the hole and roll his shooter towards center and out the back of the rings that way.
Jared Colomea tripping over everything we can put out there.
I think, yeah, he's tripped over a couple of things already.
So Jim Cotter looking for the blank here. But it's got a little bit of trickery to it. We'll see if he can punch this through the hole and roll out.
Clean.
And he will
Nicely
make no
done.
mistake, leaves the two stones undisturbed, and the scoreboard will be undisturbed as well. It will be 3 blank ends in a row, and Jim Cotter will keep the hammer into the 8th end, but he's down by 1. You're watching the BC Men's Provincial Curling Championships live on Check.
Like the weight. Yep.
Room. Room.
Weight's pretty good.
Line's good. Line's good. Top 4.
I think we're there.
Have a look. Have a look.
Hello, curling fans, and welcome back to continuing coverage of the BC Men's Provincial Curling Championships presented by Best Western, live from the Kamloops Curling Club in Kamloops, BC. John Cullen alongside Melissa Saligo on the call. And Melissa, I don't think we were expecting this 3 consecutive blank ends here.
No, not at all. It's actually a little surprising, but it's not for the lack of trying. I mean, there was one end that the first rock came in the last end as well. But, you know, both teams trying to get things going, but just not being able to get there right now. So that first rock of Nick Meister's into the top of the forefoot, which is a perfect position. So that gives him another opportunity, or an opportunity here now to cap it. I actually thought maybe they were going to throw the center guard first to see what Jim would do, and I think we knew Jim was going to throw the corner.
Yeah, we've talked a lot this week about wanting to score in the 8th end, and for people who might be joining us for the first time, Melissa, obviously Jim changing up his strategy. He hit the rock in the house the first time he throws a corner here because it does seem like he wants to score in the 8th end. What's the reasoning behind that?
The main point is that when you're in the 8th end, you have three ends left, and 2 of those hammers, if you have hammered 8, if everything played out normal, you would have the 2 hammers to 1, which is all crucial. These teams want to have the hammer coming home in the 10th end if the game is close, whether you're up 1, tied, or down 1 specifically. So this is why Jim Cotter was happy to blank in the 7th, as long as he feels like he's in control, and this is how you be in control in the 8th end with that all-important hammer.
So it is Team Richard lying shot here as Jared Colomea gets ready to throw. And Melissa, I just had a quick check. The Colomea family is correcting me from earlier. I said Jared was from Winnipeg, but he is actually not. He's from a town 3 hours north called St. Martin, Manitoba. And apparently it is a teeny tiny town. And another fun fact, there is a Colomea Road in St. Martin, Manitoba, and the curling club where Jared learned how to curl, a natural ice curling club, mind you, is at the end of Kolomea Road. So if that's not the most Canadian set of sentences you've ever heard, there you have it.
That is very cool.
And a great shot from Jared there as well, making that perfect freeze and has the angle set up very nicely for Team Richard here.
Yeah, that was a nice because it actually over curled a bit, so created a really nice angle. So important here now for Andrew to try and reconfigure the angles for himself. He wants to be on the Grant side of this rock right now and set himself up that way. Can't over curl this.
Line's great.
You see Sawatsky trying to keep it straight. And that is a fantastic shot.
Really nice shot from Andrew Nerpin, and this is the opposite of the 5th and 7th ends here, Melissa. We've got quite a cluster of rocks in the house now.
So for Jim Cotter, he wants a few things. He either wants to get 2 here in 8. He wants to blank the 8, which looks very difficult at the moment. And if he ever had Brent steal in 8, then at least he has hammer in 9, and he could look to blank 9 and have hammer in 10 down 1. So there's a couple of really great options when you do have the hammer in 8. A couple different scenarios can play out, and you still feel like you're in somewhat in control.
Keep it out there. Okay, clean. Whoa.
Almost tight. We're 2 to red.
Oh no. Jeff. Good.
Yeah, that's fine.
So got a little worried for a second that they were coming right into the house, but it does come up short and the guards are staggered. So I think we'll see Jim Peel here and
Double these off.
try to open things up a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's time for sure that Jim tries to open up the scoring area a little.
Catch it thick, roll that. I like the end. Okay.
You've seen Andrew make a ton of these, of course. He can throw this high weight very, very easily.
And just misses that pile of rocks in the house and unfortunately leaves a guard up there. So Team Richard looking pretty good here, Melissa.
They definitely are. They're in a good position. The only, I think, a small advantage for Jim Cotter right now is that redstone rolled just ever so slightly to the left as we see it there. So it's exposed that right blue stone for Jim Cotter if he gets a chance to use it. So that's what Jeff Richard is about to do. He's going to try and guard that side of the ice and try and take that away from Jim.
Hard, Nick, every inch, come on!
Trying to get this as tight as they can.
Good. All right.
So it's a little bit short, but it is guarding that pile of stones. You think Jim tries at the ones in the house here, Melissa?
He's thinking about it for sure because that guard is so high. And I think what he's going to do is he's going to play for the ones in the house. And, you know, if he ever comes short, no, he's not actually. He's going to run it. The way he was looking, I thought maybe he was going to give it a go. I like this call better for sure, John. Try and clean up one more time out the front. Make Team Richard throw another perfect card.
Yeah, exactly. You still have 3 rocks to come, so don't have to panic. And if you can get rid of both of these, he's just going with the straight run back. And unfortunately misses the rocks that matter. Geez, that is a frustrating one for Grant Olson. Really good throw.
That was a good throw. Did not pan out at all for Team Cotter here. So great position now for Brent Pierce and his team. They're looking very, very good here to try and steal.
Yeah, it's a cluster of rocks in the house and out of the house here. And if Jeff Richard can get this guard in a good spot, that's going to be very good for them.
Being up one here, if they could ever steal in this
Jared.
end, they're up two
Hard, Jared.
without,
Far as it'll
with
go.
2 ends
Far as
to
it'll
go.
go.
And if,
Far as it'll
you know,
go.
Jim would have to
Good,
find a
good,
way to
good,
probably get 3.
Okay.
Because we know the statistics in trying to steal in the last end, it's probably not very good. So lots to do before then. Trying for the double peel here for Grant Olson.
Narrowly missed his last one.
Yes!
But he
Okay,
makes
better,
that
good.
one, and how about that? Not too bad from Grant Olson. Does get rid of the one blue, but moves some of the rocks off of the forefoot. It's Richard lying too, but I think Melissa, the house looking a little bit better if you're Team Cotter now.
I think so. I mean, the left-hand side of the sheet as we look at it is pretty much done in terms of being able to draw to the forefoot for your point or anything like that. So I think Team Richard right now still in really, really good shape here. That was a great shot by Grant, but you know, there's still a chance here now for Team Richard. Do you ever play the tap? I think, John, maybe on that top one.
What do you think, Jeff?
I think that is what they're calling.
I like to play nose though, just like cross.
Okay, so this is where you
I think the risk, Melissa, if you throw the guard is Jim beats you to the forefoot potentially.
Exactly. I would agree.
And we heard Jared say there, you know, it is possible if you make the tap, you set up a triple for Jim, but even if Jim makes the triple, he's likely rolling his shooter out, and then you draw around those guards and you force Jim to one. So there's not really a bad result here from the tap.
No, I think this is a great call by Brent. And again, you just have to move it a couple of feet. And Brent talked about maybe just ever so slightly crossing that redstone and pushing the one that's there, you know, maybe showing a piece of it on the outside. So either way, a straight bump is good too. A little bit of an angle bump is great.
Hard
As
line.
long as you get it into
Hard
the
line.
forefoot.
Yeah, get in front of it. Hard line.
Brent thought maybe
So
he was
Brent-
tight out of his hand
Yeah.
there.
Weight might be a little light here. You want to move this into the forefoot if you can.
Hard.
Yeah, that's fine. That works.
And it will come up just a little bit short, but not an easy triple here for Jim, I don't think.
I'm not sure if it's there, to be honest. It looks like that second one might go over top of that redstone that's just biting back four, but we'll have to get an overhead look at it.
Go there, but it's trouble if they don't make it.
I don't mind making that double.
Okay, just play that double and
Yeah, I think even
Yeah, I don't-
Jim suggesting it goes over the top here.
Yeah, I don't think the triple's there. Grant talking about maybe just making the double.
I think so.
Might get lucky.
Even if you double it, at least he'll probably knows that you'll have a draw for the one if we don't catch that.
Throw really hard. Might get them all moving. At least spill this one to there, right? Okay. Right.
So options
Had
here
him-
for Jim, I guess,
Take your
Melissa.
Yeah, they've had another look at it for sure. I think they've talked about just making the double, making sure that they get the double, but Jim thinks there's a small chance that they might catch that stone back four and maybe make the triple. Ideally, I mean, that's an ideal situation, obviously, but ideally, if you at least make two and leave your shooter right there as well, that's going to help your situation as it stands right now. Excuse me.
So we'll see if the triple is indeed on. Jim Cotter throwing a high, hard one. Nothing yet from the sweepers at all. And he will leave both of those reds there. Another miss from Jim Cotter. He Seemed, Melissa, like he was thinking of the double as getting the top one and the back one. And I think what you said, the nose double, might have been,
Pound more, just stay off
you know,
right
an
there,
even
so
better
you're
shot.
good.
And I think that's what Grant and Andrew were referring to, is playing the top double, because if you play the top
like
double, you
this
leave
again.
your shooter right there, and
Well, I
Brent's
don't care,
got to
Jeff, what do
deal
you
with
think?
it.
I love.
So unfortunate miss there for Jim Cotter. He knows he's in a lot of trouble here in this 8th end.
So Brent Pierce looking to once again make a tap and lie 3 without hammer here in the 8th.
Back 8.
Hard line!
He wants to stay to the outside of this. He doesn't want to cross it this time, especially if he has back 8 weight.
Yeah, this one is certainly on a different line than his first one.
Gotta
Can he
get by
get
the
by that
guard.
center? Not a terrible plan B. It certainly complicates Jim Cotter's draw here, Melissa.
Does it ever? They were trying so hard to get that by, and it just ticks the guard, and Brent with a lucky bounce there, so to speak, and rolls it into a great place. I'm not sure if Jim goes way out there in the 12-foot and tries to get around everything for 1, or does he double them off and give up 1?
I think that's what he's
Might
debating
jam
right
there,
now. That draw is not easy.
No.
I think that's all we got. Just might come back on this one. It might jam it. I think we play it. I don't see anything else.
Oh, I like playing something with this.
Pretty dangerous.
We could just do this too, right?
Well,
I know it sucks, but
double it this way, right? But I think it pulls.
yeah, you could try this, and then you might.
Throw this one better. Give me the out.
Based on the conversation here, you can tell it's not a good situation for Team Cotter, John. And you know, they talked about the just a straightforward double on the top 2. They talked about maybe playing a run on their blue one, but that's a very, very dangerous shot. They didn't even look at the draw. I think you and I both agree that that draw is extremely difficult, and it's not worth the risk of giving up a potential 3 here. So they've elected to play the middle one, I think, and maybe he feels like it's going to pull to the left, and he might be able to catch that other stone that's back 4. So we'll see what happens here.
Yeah, trying a very tricky triple here. If he makes it, it would be for a blank, but it's no picnic. What does Jim Cotter have here? He does not like it. And he has come completely wide. Does not get rid of even 2 of the red stones, and it's a massive steal of 2 for Team Richard here in the 8th. They're going to take a 3-point lead into the 9th. We'll have more from Kamloops right after this.
How does it look? Stay on it. Clean it.
It's fast here.
Clean it. Clean it.
Hello, folks, and welcome back to continuing coverage of the BC Men's Provincial Curling Championships. You're watching semifinal action between Team Richard and Team Cotter live from Kamloops. John Cullen alongside Melissa Saligo. And Melissa, we are once again in processing mode here as Jim Cotter with another huge miss, and he gives up a steal of 2 in the 8th.
I think I am. I think I am processing this. You know, I don't think either of us expected to be here. I don't think Jeff Richard expected to be here, and I sure don't think Jim Cotter expected to be here. You know, it was just a situation where nothing was going right for the Cotter team, and Jeff Richard and his squad were making everything and putting their rocks in perfect places. But again, you go back to that last shot of Jim Cotter's, and I think we talked about this before. If you make and I'm not going to call it a simple double, but if you make the double on the top 2, at least you're only giving up a steal of 1, and you're still very, very much in this game. Now, don't get me wrong, he's not out of this game by any means, but there is only 2 ends to play. So it was so important there to, you know, being down 2 and being down 3 is a big, big difference with only 2 ends to go.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I've played against Jim obviously a number of times over the years. He's responsible for my 2 provincial final losses, and we just don't often see Jim. We just don't often see Jim kind of force it like that. Like you know, I think on both of his shots, he sort of neglected the kind of safer, easier shot in order to just try to make something happen with a harder shot. And we just don't usually see that from Jim. So I'm a little surprised by that. How about you, Melissa?
I am very much surprised. And to that point even further, John, is that, you know, I think it was Rick Sawatsky perhaps that came down and said we can play the run on this blue one and at least run our own back into the pile. And Jim's response simply was that's dangerous and very, very difficult. But what he played wasn't much better. It wasn't dangerous per se, but it was extremely difficult. And I guess it was dangerous in the fact that you could give up 2, and that's exactly what he did.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It just seemed like he was dialed in on that potential sort of skinny double, triple takeout, and it just seemed really difficult. And even when Andrew Nurpin came down, you know, Nurpin said, hey, you know, I know we don't love this. I know it's not very fun, but we could just peel these 2 out and give them 1. And Jim just didn't seem interested in that either. So
exactly.
So very strange from Jim Cotter, but we'll see if he can find his way back in as we'll listen to Brent Pierce and Jeff Richard have a talk here.
Just hooking around the long guard.
I think he's probably like back aiding.
Yeah, pushing it under and
Yeah, which is
Pushing under the pocket. So I don't think we wanted to do that. So I think we go tight guard.
tight guard.
Even if you tap it, even if you freeze it and tap it a little, it's not
I like
terrible.
that.
Okay. All right.
So what exactly were they discussing there, Melissa? Obviously, they're sitting 2, just maybe trying to decide if they want to go on the defense or the offense here.
I think so. They talked about throwing the guard again, or throwing a guard, pardon me, and trying to block off those 2 stones that are in the red. I think the tolerance or the acceptable option here is to be a little tiny bit heavier, and if you come to the face of your red stone and tap it a bit, that's okay too. You don't want to leave a high guard by any means. You don't need any points at this point to score. You would love to force Jim to have to take a single here. Even if Jim gets 2 in this end, for Team Richard, they are in complete control.
And so it will be Team Richard lying 3. Sorry, Melissa.
No, that's okay. I was just going to say, I think that's another place that they didn't want it. That kind of sets up a bit of a pocket there for Andrew Nurpin now to draw to if he can ever freeze this one right on the face of that stone. Again, you don't need to be putting a lot of rocks in play. You don't need to be trying to manufacture more points if you're Team Richard. You need to be protecting your lead and maybe going slightly on the defense side, in my opinion.
So Andrew Nurpin will make a little freeze tap, and I think we'll see Team Richard try to either deal with that or peel. I mean, they are sitting 2 here.
What's that? Here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Seems like they're content to stay on the offense here, Melissa.
I think this is one of those situations again, and I've said it before, offense might be the best defense here, and you know, there's a lot of rocks in play right now. There's really not any double peels per se, because I think you'd want to get rid of 2 rocks if you threw a hit. So right now it's going to take at least 2 shots for Jim Cotter to move those 2 redstones. So this is an opportunity now to really make it extremely difficult for Jim to be able to do that, but it does come up about 3 feet light. Not a bad shot though, not a bad result there. Jim has a lot of work to do to score. There's not much room in the scoring area, as you can see.
Well, and making it tougher on himself here. I mean, this is not an easy draw for Grant Olson. Has to come around this whole pile to try and get into the forefoot, and if he doesn't, oof. Sorry, Andrew Nerpin, my apologies.
Well, and you know, I'm having a look at the shot. So he's throwing around everything and trying to get to the forefoot. But I guess what I'm concerned about is if he gets in behind those redstones, how do you get rid of them?
And this is just going to skate right through the house. Can Brent get it all the way out? He won't, but those 2 reds at the top are out counting it, so it is Team Richard continuing to lie 1, 2, 4, 5.
Yep. Through there.
I like that. Yeah, discard my red that I just threw. I think I was just heavy on my first.
Nick, clean it, Nick.
Tight. Halfway.
Keep it out there.
Halfway tight. Tight, tight, tight.
So they're trying to throw a guard here, John, and if they do,
Clean it.
again, Jim Cotter, his job is getting harder and harder and harder here to try and score in this 9th end.
Good, 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 good.
That's a nice shot by by Jeff Richard.
Yeah, I've brought up this term on the broadcast all week, but one thing my old skip Dean Jones used to say is sometimes you look at a shot and there's just no joy, and that's where Jim Cotter's starting to enter that no joy territory, where you go, okay, well, even if we make the shot we want to make, is that even good? I don't know. And you know, we could see Grant Olson and Jim Cotter just having a little tete-a-tete behind the house, and you know, we couldn't hear what they were saying, but the body language and the facial expression kind of said it all. They're both sort of like, oh boy, we got a long way to go here. So Grant, I think, trying to get through this hole here and maybe disturb the pile of stones in the forefoot.
He is.
Curl, curl.
It's got to get through that hole, though. It will.
What a
Wow,
shot.
great shot from Grant
Wow.
Olson. Apparently there was a little more joy there than I thought. That was a phenomenal shot from Grant.
Look
Just
at that
skinnies
result.
right through that port and makes Team Cotter the shot stone. Wow. What a shot from Grant. So just didn't get that guard to finish enough, I guess, on Jeff's first one, and Grant Olson makes them pay.
Never drags onto it, eh?
Still a pretty good
Never
situation,
drags onto
though,
it.
I think, for Team
You like
Richard,
that, or
Melissa.
you like,
I think so too. Right now,
I like this.
we're just looking to see, they originally called the freeze right there, the freeze to that stone there. Again, that there's really not a lot of, if you have a look at it, a good way to draw anywhere. Again, you
Give it a
have to get the
chance.
forefoot. There's a 2nd and 3rd and 4th stone of belonging to Team Richard, so not a lot of options to get to the forefoot right now.
Clean it,
Obviously,
guys, clean
Jim
it!
Cotter would like to get out of here with a deuce at the minimum. So if you freeze this blue one, I think Jim might have to come around everything to the back 4, I think.
come on! Jerry, gotta go further, further,
Sweepers
further,
have to
keep
get it
going,
there.
get in front of it, come
And wow, what a sweep
That's
from
good.
Jared
Wow.
Kolomea and Nick Meister, and a phenomenal shot
No
from Jeff
kidding.
Richard. Couldn't walk it down there any better. And now, like you say here, Melissa, it is really tough shot here for Jim Cotter.
Yeah, so two options, coming around everything on the outturn side, or where Jim is suggesting trying to get to the forefoot. You just have to skinny that first guard, and we know that it curls by those guards after the hog line. So just trying to skinny that guard and get it to curl as much as possible.
Swats in. Yeah, go nerd.
You can see it getting by the guard by a ton.
Line's green. Go, 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 go.
Can they get it there?
Gotta get in there, yeah. Gotta get it there for shot,
Nice.
and they do.
Wow.
Phenomenally swept by Andrew Nerpin and Rick Sawatsky, and Grant Olson with a dandy pair.
Look at that. It overcurled by almost a whole rock. Wow.
That rock is lost.
Another one in there.
So all of a sudden, John, just a matter of that one shot by Grant on his first to change the complexity of this end, and now Team Cotter line 2.
Yeah, that's really good. You ever catch that blue, you make what you said.
Yeah. Problem is you're leaving another one in the house.
Well, it's never out counting those two.
Well.
Sure.
So Team Richard will take their first time out to discuss
the only problem
here.
is if you miss this, he just sinks another one in there.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He puts another one there.
That's pretty good. I mean, giving up 2 here is not the end of the world.
Go right here. Guards, you leave it half open and then slap.
Yeah.
He's doing this. All he's doing is this. That's what he's doing.
We can't promote this one enough? No, eh? They missed that guard by...
Swing at this. Right? You get the guard.
Yeah.
Or you get the red one.
Yeah.
Where's the red
Which
one?
probably goes onto that one.
Well, no. So you're saying if I poke the... Oh, what does it do, though? Well, kill one. Okay, yeah. That's right. Yeah, he's playing this then to sit 2.
You ever throw it with...
Push it again.
Yeah. I don't hate that.
Okay, so what do you... Like hack weight or bumper? Oh, I don't want it to spring. Spring, that's the only thing, man.
I thought it was like control. It's not moving far with control.
Control?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm good with that. Okay.
Interesting scenario, John.
Control like what? Right
I don't think they've, if you go down to the hack, I think you could only see about an inch of this red stone, and he's trying to throw control at it.
Yeah, I don't know that Brent has seen it. He's going to take a look from the hack, and I almost wonder if he's going to change the call a little bit. You get a good look there. I mean, you really can't see a lot of it.
Yeah, and he's in the left hack here. You can barely see an inch of that stone, I would think, from that hack. No, he likes it. Trying to throw control weight.
Just got to skinny by that guard and try and remove that blue counter. But as you can see, not going to be easy for Brent Pierce. His first here in the 9th.
Hit the back one, Jeff! Hit the back one!
Plan B here.
Came a little wide on it, didn't get really anywhere near the one he was trying to hit, and now all of a sudden it's Cotter lying 2 with the hammer and a chance to maybe get a third in here, Melissa.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just struggling with that call, actually, and if you're going to play it, I know you want to play it with enough weight to punch the blue one out, but that was so difficult for Brent. I just don't think you could see enough of that rock to make that shot. Yeah. So does Jim Cotter throw the exact same shot that Grant Olson just did?
Did you feel
I would leave that shot for Brent to try again if he wants to. If I'm Jim Cotter, right in on top, right where his broom is.
It's just 3 feet heavier. That's all I had to throw extra here. Yep, through there too. And okay. Say thanks, Scott. Once we get by, I'll rip it over. Hey?
Yeah, I agree with you, Melissa. I think this is the right call. You just saw it. And Jim's liked it all end, right? He wanted Andrew Nerpin to throw it first.
Well, I had you here.
So it's obviously something that he's seen right from the beginning, and you obviously saw Grant Olson make it.
Okay, stick with that.
And I think if he can get on top of this one and get third shot, it's going to be really difficult for Team Richard to prevent them from putting up a solid number here.
I think so too, and I really like the conversation with Andrew too. Andrew and Rick Sawatsky, they had a conversation about once it gets past the guard, they're both going to jump on the side to make it curl, and try and carve it right in there to the face of that other stone to be third shot. So huge shot here for Jim Cotter.
He's already lying 2 and looking to lie a third is Jim Cotter. He's down 3, but the tide might be starting to turn.
Got to get it by the guard first.
Andrew Nerpin on it, trying to get it by. Can they get it by? They got to get by, and they will not.
Wow.
So Jim Cotter's struggles continue here as Melissa, I think, unfortunately, doesn't make the draw and may have even opened up a path to that Grant Olson stone.
I think so. He's moved the guard enough that I think Brent has access with just a nice soft weight.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably makeable, Jeff.
You ever make the same shot?
Try the same shot and hold the 2. Want to give another shot? It's tough throwing weight at it because I don't know if it's going to curl.
I think the other shot's easier myself, but
he's got
Yeah,
there.
Brent could even come off his own red.
Let's give it another try.
yes. This is so tough. Obviously,
Like,
Brent
you think I
sees
can
it.
get there? Okay, give it a try. It's a little bit heavier here, boys.
I like this a lot better, John, for a number of reasons. And, you know, if you can ever get there, as you said, you could even tighten up the ice and play a little bit of weight. Not a lot of weight, but enough weight that you come off your own red and push the blue back. You can freeze to it. Tolerance is to be a little bit lighter, and then you force Jim Cotter to go to the other side and pretty much have to hit, you know, back 4 to get hit that third point. So
Yeah, I like this
there's
call a
more
lot.
room.
Does need this to curl a little bit, though, to try and get inside of that Cotter shot stone.
Should start to
He
curl
gets
now.
by the guard. Can he get inside of it? Great sweep from Nick Meister, and I
Wow.
think
Did he
he
get
did
it?
get in there for second shot.
He did. Oh, what a
So
shot
Jim
by
Cotter
Brent
opens
Pierce.
up just enough room, and Brent Pierce takes advantage. And again, our overhead is not exactly over the button, but it looks pretty clearly like red to me, Melissa.
I'm going to agree
Yeah,
with you. I do think it is.
Yeah, Grant seeming to indicate the same.
Well, we could just heavy, like a draw, just kind of nick this one in here. Or even just kind of high side it. That's probably easier than that. Just because we can kind of come off this a little, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't don't see anything for 3.
Way better. Thinking that out counter.
I think that's same weight, eh?
Yeah, right there.
Just tap that blue
Just
up.
kind of play it off that
second
one.
shot.
Don't have to move it much, eh?
Their
Don't have to
second,
move
so
it
yeah,
much.
we'll try and tap our blue just ever so slightly.
Couple inches.
So it looks like Jim Cotter is going to try to come down here, Melissa, and just nudge his blue in for second shot.
He is. Pretty much the same shot he just threw, but this is such a delicate shot. I think if anything, you played off the outside red one, and you only have to push it a couple of inches. You know, the worst case scenario obviously is the over curl for Jim, so they have to be very, very careful here that they keep this on the outside of that blue stone as long as possible.
Okay, stay close.
So Jim Cotter looking to keep his final hopes alive. Needs to just nudge his own stone into the 4-foot. And he will do just that. So a nice touch from Jim Cotter, and it is 2 on the board. But Team Richard will have the hammer when we come back, and they're leading by 1. 10th end action from Kamloops when we return. You're watching the BC Men's Curling Championships live on Check. Hello, folks, and welcome back to the BC Men's Curling Championship live from Kamloops, BC. John Cullen and Melissa Saligo, and I won't even bother setting up the 10th end, Melissa, because we've just seen a key miss from lead Rick Sawatsky.
Yeah, you know, Rick's obviously not going to be happy with that at all, and neither is his team. They talked about it. Jim was down talking to the team just before that rock was thrown, just to ensure that you just have to get it in play. Obviously, you have to get it between the hog line and the house, and really a bad miss for Rick Sawatsky.
Yeah, just kind of on theme in this second half of the game for Team Cotter, Melissa. We just saw Jim Cotter take 2, but he had a huge miss on his first one in the 9th. It looked like if he got around those guards, he was going to be set up for 3 or maybe even 4. And we saw another untimely miss from Jim that allowed Jeff Richard to hold them to 2.
That's exactly right. And you know, just another guard. We look back at I think it was the 4th end that he ticked that guard. He ticks that guard in 9. If he gets by there, like you say, it's a different ball game. But great shot by Brent Pierce on his last one. The Brushers took it in all the way and got it to second shot. If that comes up even a tiny bit short, there might have been a small opening for Jim Cotter to get 3, but they just got it in there just for second shot, and that was a fantastic sweep by them and a great shot by Brent.
So Nick Meister looking for the tick here. And he will make no mistake. And with the hog rock by Swat and that tick by Nick Meister, things all of a sudden looking very rosy here for Team Richard, Melissa.
I would have to agree. I mean, not only is Jeff and his team up 1, but they do have the hammer here. So because of that perfect tick by Nick Meister, you can see Andrew has to now throw this rock off center and more towards the corner a little bit. That keeps the center line exposed. And, you know, if Jim, oh my goodness, if Brent ever needs to make a play and throw a draw to win the game or whatever, he'll have that forfeit open at the moment. So
not your fault. A lot of J's out there tonight. Jared,
there is
Jeff,
a lot of
Jim.
J's out there.
It's not easy. And I'm John, so it's
yeah.
you got 4. You got 4 you got to remember. So not super easy. And yeah, no, exactly right, Melissa. This is oh.
Does he have a piece?
He does not. So a miss from Rick Sawatsky and a miss from Jared Kolomea, and now Jim might have an opportunity to get a little something started here in the 10th.
There's a little glimmer of hope.
Yes, exactly. Sorry, Melissa. The winner of this game, of course, will go on to face the Islanders tomorrow in the final. We'll have that live for you, 2 p.m. Pacific, right here on Check and cbcsports.ca. And before that, we'll have the BC Scotties final at 9 a.m. tomorrow. It will be a rematch of the A final and the 1-2 game in the Scotties. Marianne Arsenault doing battle with Kayla McMillan. Kayla will try to make it a 3rd win in a row over the Arsenault squad to earn her first trip to the BC Scotties. So make sure you join us for that one tomorrow morning. And so now 3 guards up here for Jim Cotter, and you know, it's still the play all the way from the middle here, Melissa, but I think if you're Jim Cotter coming into this end, your whole goal was to just make Brent have to throw his last one, and I think they're on track for that, at least so far.
Yeah, I would think so, and when you get Brent to throw his last one, you want to make it as difficult as possible. So the fact that you have 3 guards up there, even after hogging Rick's first one, that's huge, right? And that was unfortunate because Jared missed one of his. So right now it's just going to be a simple, straightforward strategy here is Jim Cotter needs to keep putting these guards in a place and try to prevent Jeff Richards' team from making any kind of double if possible. Eventually he's going to have to come in. And you can see he's maybe thinking about doing this on Grant's first stone. You could throw one more guard.
Yeah, you could delay this by 1 more stone, but you know, I think there's not really a science to this. It's whenever you feel comfortable getting in the house here. And, you know, if you ever were to get one in here and Team Richard either knows his appeal or maybe has a straight flash, then you're really looking good to put some pressure on them. So I don't mind it.
Oh, this looks a little heavy. Really want it to
They
stop.
need this one to slow down, yep. It will stop, but it's a little deep. And Brent Pierce will have some options here. There's a double peel available. Although it looks like Brent's maybe just teeing up the single here. I guess you don't really need to get that second one.
Exactly. I don't think you do. Just get rid of this one for sure. Just this way it just creates, you have both pathways to the 4-foot, and that's what Brent is going to try and set himself up for, is to ensure he has at least 1 or 2 opportunities to get to the 4-foot.
And so good shot there from Jeff. And Melissa, we were talking at the 5th end break about how statistics don't always tell the entire story, but I'll just tell you this. At the 5th end break, Jim Cotter's team was curling 85.7%. And going into this 10th end, they were sitting at 69%.
Oh boy.
So a deduction of 16 percentage points over the second half of the game. And I think a lot of those misses have gone up on the board, unfortunately, for Team Cotter.
Wow, that is a big percentage for sure, John. So Grant Olson really wants this one to come to a halt here. Oh wow, just gets a piece of it.
Yeah, we heard Brent say uh-oh, but
Uh-oh.
Jeff gets enough of it. They were trying to get rid of both of those blues, and they only got rid of one, and thankfully they did get rid of one. A little bit of a nail biter there from Jeff Richard, but gets enough of it to make it happen.
So John, is he throwing, I think, maybe another guard, one more guard?
I think so, yes. I think they were debating, but I think they're throwing one more guard, yeah. Yeah, likely you'd throw a guard here, Brent likely peels, and then you just put a second rock in the house so that if Brent ever were to miss, you win.
You make it sound so simple.
I mean, I don't know how many games I won doing that, but I do know talking about that a lot. Oh, if we lay 2, you never know. He might miss, and then we win.
We do this, yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes it's a lot of wishful thinking, Melissa. So now if you're Brent here, would you ever consider coming in the house, or is this always the call?
No, always the call, especially if you're up 1. If you're tied, you may consider it, but if you're up 1 with hammer, you are peeling this all day long.
So Brent Pierce will peel this, and we'll see where Jim Cotter decides to put his second counter. So first stone here for Brent Pierce in the 10th. And a little
Nice
early
shot.
panic from Brent, but he makes no mistake.
So you have to decide, if you're Jim Cotter, do you want Brent to hit or draw on his last shot?
Yeah, I think if Jim puts it where he originally said, just sort of edge on that corner guard, Brent has to draw, and it does bring into play the potential steal of 2 if he misses.
Correct.
But again, if you put it where Grant Olson said, in the top 8, which a lot of teams will sometimes do to cut down the draw path, then Brent might try just a little hit and roll. So discussion here, and you might be able to hear we've lost connection with our player mics, so Melissa and I are back to sort of filling in what we are imagining they might be talking about. No word on whether or not it was Brent Pierce's screaming that blew the mics out or not. We'll have to check that after the game. I don't know if there's science behind that.
So a decision made here, it looks like. I think they're going to bring this in maybe just biting top 8, I think. I think if I were Jim Cotter, you probably want Brent Pierce to draw. He made that fantastic draw in the previous end, however, but he is a great hitter as well. Not really a great spot anywhere, I think, John, so this is just a hope and a prayer, I think. They're trying to maybe just tuck it ever so slightly behind that guard, do you think?
Yes, I think so. Jim had said edge on edge, so just putting it in a spot where Brent almost has no chance other than to draw.
To draw.
So Jim Cotter looking to lie 2. Does not have hammer here in the 10th end.
First job here is to ensure that this is second shot. Weight looks really good.
Yeah, this might be over curling a little bit from where they wanted it, but a pretty good spot, and so it is Brent electing to draw. So these are the shots you dream about as a skip. 10th end, needing a piece of the forefoot for the win and a trip to the final.
And Brent Pierce, again, in that 9th end, made a critical draw on his last one, so he'll be going back into the memory bank and trying to get the exact feel for this shot here against 2 in the 10th.
So final stone, Brent Pierce needs to bite the forefoot with this draw to book a ticket to tomorrow's BC men's final.
Get it there. Get it there.
Sweepers like it. It looks close.
It looks fantastic. Right
Brent
on
Pierce
the money.
Made his first final 32 years ago, and he's made yet another one here. 52 years young, and he'll be up against the Islanders tomorrow. What a phenomenal shot from Brent Pierce. He'll earn a 3rd date with the Islanders in tomorrow's final. We're going to take a quick break, and we will hear from the winning skip when we come back. Hello, folks, and welcome back. We just saw the BC Men's Provincial Curling semifinal, and it was a huge win for Team Jeff Richard, and we are joined by Jeff right now. And Jeff, you talked to us at the fifth end break about how it was a bit of a sloppy start, and you wanted to improve on that in the second half, and I think it's safe to say that was mission accomplished. You guys were all systems go in that second half.
Yeah, you know what? We played really well in the second half. You know, the even ends, when Jimmy was trying for it, we probably played our two best ends of the week and kind of held them there. And, you know, we really picked up our game. We figured out the ice, and, you know, we're just happy to move on to tomorrow.
Well, congratulations, Jeff. Such a great game, and it was really good to see. You know, you go back to that ninth end, and Brent Pierce missed his first one, you know, with that very, very difficult hit. And there was a chance there that Jim Cotter was going to try and set himself up for maybe three, but a clutch draw by Brent. Is that something we can, I mean, he just made one in the last end as well. What did you do to talk him into making that shot?
Well, you know what? We just kind of you talked about it, and you know he kind of just let me decide which shot to play there. And you know we thought if we made this, we could cut him down to possibly two, which was our goal. I mean, they played a great end. We got in a little trouble, left a little too many rocks in play, but you know they're a heck of a team. You can't leave Jimmy any of those shots as you saw him play today. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was a phenomenal effort from you guys, and this puts you into the final against the Islanders, and you've lost to them twice already this weekend. And so what are some things that you're maybe looking to improve on to get over them and get to that BC crown tomorrow?
You know, the first game against them, we struggled. I mean, Paul's made everything all week, so it's he's a heck of a shooter. The whole team's played great. You know what? We're just going to put as much pressure on him as we can. You know, provincial finals are a little different. There's a little added pressure. So, you know, hopefully Brent and I can rely on the experience we've had by playing in a few of these over the years and come out on top tomorrow.
Well, congratulations again, Jeff. A fantastic effort today. We're looking forward to the final tomorrow. And to break the rest of the game down, we'll throw it back to the Czech studios with Stacy, Kevin, and Mike. For Melissa Saligo, I'm John Cullen. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.